Hi everyone, my name is Ashlee. I'm here with my roommate Tatum. I decided to bring her into interview because she is a Vanguard resident. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Hi, so I'm Tatum. This is my third year living on campus at Vanguard. I'm a junior and I'm from out of state, so I kind of have to live on campus, so yeah.
Perfect. Well, let's just talk about a little bit how we decided to come to Vanguard and why we decided to be roommates this year and what like your transition was from freshman year to now, kind of like the dorms, the differences between the dorms.
So what brought me to Vanguard was the stunt team, so I was recruited as an athlete, and coming from out of state, I obviously had to live in a dorm. So first year, because of COVID, I actually didn't live in the freshman dorm. I lived in Catalina, which is a dorm meant for sophomores, and it's meant for 3 people, but only 2 of us lived in the dorm. I lived in the same hall last year, but it was 3 of us that time because COVID was kind of lifting up.
Yeah.
And then this year, we are in a 2-person bedroom, but a 10-person quad.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a lot of girls and it does get chaotic at times, but it is really fun. Everyone is super nice. We decided to be roommates, we kind of like talked to each other about it since we are on the same team together, and I think it's pretty cool that we just get to hang out a lot. So a little bit about your schedule versus my schedule. I think it's kind of cool that we both have freer schedules this year since we are upperclassmen, and it's kind of cool how like sometimes we both are in the room, sometimes we do get that like alone time. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's nice that we get to have time together, especially like right before our practices and right after. And we also do get our alone times. Like for instance, I don't have class Tuesday, Thursday, so those days are kind of my chill days versus your Monday. And my Monday, Wednesdays are pretty slow too, but yours are pretty back to back. So
yeah, I have 3 classes back to back, Monday and Wednesdays, so they are a little bit hectic. But I do think that sometimes I like kind of stacking my schedule like that because I definitely try to stay away from Friday classes and early morning classes. So yeah, I think that it's pretty cool how our schedules kind of combine like that for sure. What's your thoughts on being a full-time campus resident when you have friends that do go home sometimes here and there?
I think it's nice because it's so easy to just wake up and go to class versus having to worry about, oh, what's the traffic going to be like, what's the parking going to be like, because you just walk to class. On weekends when the residents that are local do go home, sometimes it can be like, oh, what should I do? But there's so much to do in the area that there's always something you can do.
That's so true. You can go to the beach, you can go to the mountains. I know that you just got back from snowboarding this last weekend with our other roommate. And I do agree. I mean, I go home on the weekends just because that's where my family is, and that's like it's super helpful. I know it can be hard being away from family. How does that work with you?
My first year, it was really a struggle being so far from family, especially because I'm from out of state, so it's not just a quick drive. You have to hop on a plane. It's a whole process. Yeah. But as the years go on and you make deeper connections with friends, I think it makes it easier to be away. Because they're always a phone call away, but it definitely gets easier with time.
It definitely is different. And now that we're on the topic of being from out of state, you are, like you said, you're a little bit further away from Texas. So what's the difference in cultures from like Texas to California? I know it's pretty big, but like school-wise, I know you probably toured some other schools as well. What were your thoughts on like the different cultures?
So first of all, the weather is completely different. It gets a lot hotter there. The weather's more consistent here, but it's also a little cooler. So it's nice most of the time. Right now it's been cold, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But another difference was the school. I went to a really big high school. So Vanguard's a little smaller than my high school, so the class size is about the same. But also some of the schools I toured had like 30,000 students. So I honestly prefer it small. At first I wasn't sure, but now that I'm here, it's kind of like I feel like it encourages me to get to know my professors more one-on-one, and it makes it easier to get work done.
I totally agree with that. I think I also came from a big high school down in Corona. I think that being at a smaller school and a smaller campus, especially if you have something personal going on that you need to talk to professors about, they're super understanding. And so I definitely think that here being at a smaller school, it does help to get to know. You do get to talk to them. I think it's easier to focus in class, whether being in a 200 other students can be challenging. So I definitely agree with you on that. And now we talked about a little bit in the beginning being an athlete. You said that you were recruited as an athlete as well as I was. How does being an athlete on campus affect your lifestyle? Whether our other friends kind of don't have practices every day and they get to kind of do more free things. I know it's kind of difficult sometimes where we get that little bit of free time and it's really enjoyable, but tell me a little bit about that.
I think living on campus in housing definitely makes being an athlete easier since we have to be here every day versus some commuters don't have class every day so they don't come to campus every day.
Yeah.
But having to come every day, I think it definitely makes it easier to live on campus, and it's nice just to walk to practice once again. I think it can be a little hectic sometimes because you're always going, and there's like some friends that have the free time versus we're like, oh, I can't, I have practice. But I really do like it, and I think it kind of helps build a schedule because it's always the same there. It's pretty consistent every day.
No, for sure, I totally agree with that. And especially being with our dorm situation, we're right outside the new building that's being put in at the moment with the construction, and the parking situation is not the greatest right now, so it is difficult, especially if you're just leaving to run an errand and come back. It's definitely a struggle. So I can imagine being a commuter every day and having to just struggle to find that parking right before a class or right before practice. I definitely agree with all that, yeah. So a second ago we were talking about how we're currently in the junior-senior dorm and how we both have kind of progressed up to these dorms. Like you said, you were in Catalina for 2 years. I actually lived in Laguna my freshman year and then Cat last year, and now we're both in Newport. So what was let's talk about some pros and cons of all the different dorms that we lived in.
I would say for Catalina, the first pro is obviously the AC.
For sure.
It is the only hall on campus that comes with the AC and a heater unit. So that was very nice to be able to freely do that. Another pro is for all of the dorms is the in-dorm bathrooms. You don't have the shared community bathrooms, which I definitely like. Some cons, I would say a con for Catalina is it's 3 people versus right now it's just the 2 of us in a bedroom.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad, but for the size of the rooms, because they were smaller rooms, so it definitely would have been easier with just 2.
Yeah, for sure. They are definitely smaller, but even in Laguna and Huntington Hall, those are even smaller. So I didn't have a roommate my freshman year because it was COVID year. So I was in Laguna by myself, which was a luxury most of the time, but at times when I had personal stuff going on, I was like, yeah, man, I wish I could have someone to talk to, because freshman year you're in that kind of awkward transitional phase where you don't really know what's going on, especially when we had COVID. We didn't really know what we were doing and classes were online. So it was definitely an interesting year. I do agree, I think that our current dorm is probably, besides the air conditioning that we lack, I think that is the nicest because we do have a good big bathroom and we kind of have like our side of the room. So, and we have a nice closet as well with a big old mirror. I think those are really cool.
I love the mirror.
The mirror is so nice. But yeah, so we are also in like an all-female quad, and I think it's the different floors for Newport and Balboa.
There's 1 floor in each hall that shares. It's co-ed, but all the other floors are
okay, yeah, because I think now Catalina and Laguna are every other, or not Laguna, Huntington are every other floor, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I know that, I feel like that's so normal at like not community colleges, but just public universities. Yeah. And when I came to Vanguard, it was like, nope, like all girl building, all boy building, and then, different. Yeah, it's because I feel like the student population is growing, which is a good thing. But it's definitely an interesting topic because it's like when we were in CAT last year, it's like all girls and occasionally you'd see a guy going in for open hours, and now it's like you see this whole group of guys walking over there and you're like, that's weird, that shouldn't used to happen.
When I visit friends in Catalina, it's always so weird seeing guys, and I'm like, what are they doing here? And I'm like, oh yeah, they live here now.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's talk about the CAF and our meal plans, because I know that there is some like for people who live in DC, the apartments, they don't really, because they have a full kitchen that they can cook. But I know that there's some people that are like iffy on the meal plans, debating on if they're even worth it, or if there's like people coming in where you can choose the different amounts of meal plans that you get each week. I definitely like it personally, especially if we have practices and like, I don't know, if we just need to go here and there, but it's definitely nice to not have to cook or go out all the time. Sometimes it sucks when we miss the calf, do practice, but you know, it is what it is. What are your thoughts on the meal plans?
I feel like it's definitely nice because like after a long day, I do like cooking, but after a long day I wouldn't want to cook, so it's nice to just have your food ready to go.
For sure.
And the community kitchen in our dorm also is not the cleanest.
Yeah.
So even though there is the option to cook, it's so nice to just grab your food and be able to eat with friends.
Yeah. I definitely think that the dynamic in the CAF this year is way different than it was freshman year. Freshman year it was like, get your food in a to-go box and get out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the whole social distancing thing. But now it's so strange. I remember last year when the CAF first opened back up. Or not last year, I think it was the end of freshman year where they finally started letting like people in, but only so many people, like a capacity. And my friend and I, we sat in there and we ate, and then it was just so weird because we weren't used to it. And then I didn't do it again until I came back like last year or this year. It was strange, but I definitely think that being able to sit and hang out with your friends while you're eating, especially after practice, like we said, it's nice. We didn't talk about this yet, but you are a business major.
Yes.
Is there an emphasis in that, or is it just like business?
So it's business administration.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's basically a business administration. It's just like the general business. There are different emphases like marketing, stuff like that, but mine is just basically general business. And it's really nice to just be able to learn how businesses work, how you can manage businesses, because then I kind of take a dip in every single emphasis, so I get to kind of see it all, see how it all works together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I have to take a business class. I don't know which one.
Intro to business?
It might be, since I'm comm, I know that comm and business kind of intertwine a tiny bit, not a lot, but I definitely am excited, a little bit nervous to take that business class, but at least I'm glad that I have you to ask questions if I'm ever confused. So a second ago, we were talking about business classes and how comm and business kind of intertwine a little bit, but let's transition into, let's take it back to freshman year and let's talk a little bit about the online Zoom classes versus the in-person classes, because there's a huge difference. How was your experience with that?
When classes were strictly online, it definitely was easier to just roll out of bed, click join Zoom, even have your camera off and just be in bed.
Yeah, for sure.
It was definitely easier, but I know I for sure did not pay as much attention online as I would in person. It's harder when you have the option to just click camera off and just sit there on your phone, but so although it was nice, I know it's definitely not the same learning experience, and I definitely would prefer in person because I feel like it motivates me to pay more attention.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I was the same way. I had like, I think 2 or 3 8 a.m.s. I think it was 2. I think I had like New Testament and Intro to Art, and I definitely was, I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely sleeping through a couple of those classes just because I'm not a morning person and I don't know why I set myself up. When you went into freshman year, did you come in declared as a business major?
So I did come in declared, yes.
Okay. See, I was undeclared. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. I probably knew I was going into comm, but I just didn't exactly know for sure yet. So I'm glad that I am where I am now. So did you take kind of business and gen ed, or were you just kind of more along the gen ed lines?
It was mostly gen ed. I think freshman year I had like 1 business class each semester. Just to get the gen eds out of the way, and now I'm pretty much strictly business classes.
Okay, yeah. So I took mostly, I think I took all gen ed. I mean, I obviously came as undeclared, and then I took a sociology class my freshman year, and then for a hot second, I was like, I like the class, I'm gonna do a sociology major. That lasted like maybe 2 months. And then I don't remember, I feel like I declared something else, but eventually when I came back after my semester off, I came and declared as a communications major with tech and media, and I definitely am enjoying it now. But no, I totally agree with you that in-person classes, they're just so much easier to follow with and get up and have the motivation to go, because if you don't go, some classes it can dock your grade. I think it's the lower levels, I think the upper levels some do, but I mean, if you're enjoying classes too, it definitely helps.
It makes it easier to ask questions too.
100%.
Versus if you're on Zoom, I'm like, yeah, I don't care enough to ask.
Yeah, are you like, when you're in your classes, do you sit, they call it the T-zone, especially as athletes, you kind of sit like front or like down the middle row?
I would say yes. Definitely not a front row person, but I do like to sit towards the middle.
Okay, yeah, so most of mine too, I'm usually in the T-zone. For me, it also helps because now that we also have computers in class and other people are on their computers, I get distracted easily. So if I'm in the front row, I know that I'm going to be leaving my phone alone unless there's something really strange happening, and I'm just going to do my work on my computer, and I'm just going to be able to focus way easier. So I definitely think that in person, 100% are way better. Obviously, Zoom are nice every once in a while. It's like, oh, cool, like get the day off, just chill. But how is your homework load now versus freshman, sophomore year?
I would say freshman, sophomore year was definitely a lot more, especially with like the gen ed classes, once you just take the one class and then you're done, so it's so much crammed into one semester.
Yeah.
But now that kind of all the classes correlate, it's easier to just have like one assignment a week per class, which is pretty nice.
No, for sure, I totally agree. I think that especially when you're in gen ed, there's like multiple assignments a week, and with multiple gen ed classes, they all kind of stack up on each other. So it does get a little bit frustrating, but I agree now that we are kind of knowing our paths to where we want to go and the classes that we're in and guiding us that way. I agree, I think that is lighter, and just at least if you are consistent with your work, it definitely keeps you going. And if you just scratch off that one assignment, you're good to go, and then you just keep going. I mean, obviously, we're going to need breaks here and there. I think that, especially right now, we're getting towards the middle of the semester, I believe. I think next week is like week 8, I want to say, which is like midterms, yeah. So I definitely, at least I'm feeling a little bit of burnout right now personally with just all my classes and everything going on. It's just, I feel like definitely need that spring break coming up here, but what helps keep you motivated when you're starting to feel that burnout?
I'm feeling burnout. I don't really know how to keep going. I definitely have to drink coffee and just sit down and get my work done.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll just keep pushing it off, but then I'm like, if you just get it over with, then it's over with and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
No, for sure. I think it's also important for us to take those mental breaks. I know that when we have our nice warm days, we've gone to the beach a couple times, and I kind of like to just chill and just breathe for a little bit before I'm like, okay, I look at my Canvas probably in the morning before my classes, see what's due that day. If there's nothing, cool, work on the next day's assignment or whatever's due by the end of the week. I think it's pretty important to just stay consistent, and even if you're burning out, just to take a mental break and then just come back to it. Well, Tatum, thank you so much for joining me on our podcast. I look forward to talking to you more about this and just whatever we end up doing next. How did you enjoy this?
Yeah, this was really nice. Thank you for having me. It's nice to kind of reflect on the housing situations for the past 3 years and how they differ and how it can be different from commuter students.
No, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Well, thank you again, and I'm really glad that we got to do this.